Update: I kicked my soon-to-be ex-friend out of my house. Original post. As the title says, last week I kicked what I thought was a good friend out of my house because I could no longer handle her antics. I just want to write it here to distress and deal with the grief of losing a friend. Kendall, 25 female, and I, also 25, met in university in 2016. We studied different majors but were in the same department, so we shared many classes together and bonded over our passion for gaming and memes. Upon graduation, Kendall moved back to her hometown due to COVID and found a job there. We kept in touch online through Instagram. About 3 years later, Kendall told me she found a better paying job in the city, so she was planning to move out of her parents' place. When I asked her about her accommodation plans, she replied with, "That's the thing. I was going to ask if you have an extra bedroom that I could move into." For context, I inherited an apartment from my late grandfather, a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath near the city center, in January of last year. I currently live alone there since it's closer to my workplace and has all the convenience of public transport. After some thinking, I decided there was no harm in living with Kendall since I considered us close friends. We discussed the terms and, of course, the rent. A week later, Kendall moved into my apartment. It was great at first. My home felt more lively than usual, and the thought of going home to a close friend warmed my heart and gave me a sense of security. Things were okay for a while, and then things went downhill quickly. Kendall started complaining about many things, about her work, her savings, and how she felt homesick. At first, I was very accommodating, thinking maybe she just needed time to get used to city life. I offered as much help as I could, even to the point of voiding a month's rent if she was low on money so she could work toward financial stability. I taught her how I save money, how I lived off my then low salary while juggling several commitments like my car, my dog, and my student loan. I grew up with parents who expected me to be independent, so I told her the things I do when I was low on cash, how to get freelance jobs, etc. But she always seemed to have excuses for every suggestion I gave. Finding a freelance job was too hard. She couldn't let go of her premium junk food. She wasn't willing to cook or meal prep. Eventually, I decided to leave it as it was. After 2 months of living together, I realized Kendall started treating me as some kind of competition. She would constantly ask me things like how much money I make a month, how many job changes it took to get there. Anything she thought she was better at, she'd bring up. She would boast about how she was loyal to her crappy-paying company and how I would never be able to move up the corporate ladder, calling me an industry frog. She once snooped through my savings balance and asked how I had so much saved up with all my commitments. Mind you, she didn't have a lot of commitments. Her parents paid off her student loans and bought her a fully paid brand new car. She even suggested maybe I should stop collecting rent from her. I got mad and told her if she wasn't happy living with me, maybe she should move out. Cue crocodile tears as she said it was just a joke and begged for forgiveness, promising never to snoop through my personal items and details again. I let it go once, but she kept bringing things up like, well, you have the cash and a credit card. Every time I told her I would rather stay home because I no longer had the budget to go out and have fun. These comments became more frequent when I got a new job 6 months ago. On top of that, she didn't clean up after herself, tried to flirt with my boyfriend, and would park in my parking space, despite our initial agreement that she would find her own parking if she brought her car, since my apartment only has 1 parking lot per unit. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I caught her kicking my dog in the abdomen when I got home from work. I yelled at her and rushed to check my dog. Luckily, he was fine, but I still rushed him to the vet to be safe. When I got home, she sneered that it was just a dog and said that as a friend, I shouldn't treat her like that. I asked why she had kicked my dog and she didn't answer, just shrugged and tried to escape into her room. At this point, it had been about a year since Kendall moved in with me. I lost my cool and told her off, bringing up her behavior and how I had tried to be nice and accommodating. Then I told her I was giving her a week to move out. And that from then on, I'd prefer we either keep our relationship casual or stop talking entirely. Kendall cried and begged me not to kick her out, but soon it turned into her screaming back at me, calling me a bad friend because apparently, in her words, I didn't tell her off about how badly she was behaving. Like what? There was a lot of back and forth, I don't remember everything I said, but I do remember eventually calling her an entitled brat. She cried again, said it was uncalled for, and stormed off to her room. The next day, I was bombarded with texts from other uni friends, some calling me selfish, others sympathizing with me. Apparently, Kendall posted about our argument on Facebook and Instagram, painting me as the bad guy. I was upset at first, but I decided that after Kendall moved out, we would no longer be friends. Nor would I stay friends with those who took her side and condemned me. Last week, Kendall left, and I changed the locks on my apartment. I curled up in bed and cried, maybe from the sadness of losing a friend, or maybe because I was finally letting out all the frustration. I am definitely still grieving the loss of a friend, as I had many good times with Kendall. For now, I want to focus on myself, and hopefully, I will eventually get over this. Edit. The whole teasing about me having more money than Kendall got worse when I told her I had been given an offer by an MNC as a senior designer and disclosed my offered salary. Since we always shared salaries, I knew what she earned too. It was about 50% more than hers. That was dumb on my part. I now understand why my parents told me to never disclose or discuss salaries once I started working. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Per your post, I would think that Kendall is a user rather than an actual friend. You will need time to heal. I recommend that you seek short-term psychological counseling to help, and maybe find out how to more effectively set and enforce personal boundaries. I'm planning to look into those as well if I could afford them. But for the time being, I'll try to find comfort in spending time with Doggo, my boyfriend, and drowning in my hobbies. She should have been out on her butt as soon as she was caught kicking the dog. The moment I saw that, I felt as if the Holy Trinity left me, and I had never found myself so angry. No one who kicks my dog is welcome in my home for even an hour. Very conveniently, this simple response to her post will show you who in the group you even want to stay friends with. Yup, I'm surprised people still took her side after stating that she kicked my dog, and I guess I just found out the number of friends I didn't need anymore. Now for the first update. Hello everyone, I'm here with some updates about me, my doggo, and my now ex-friend Kendall. Let's start with the update about myself. I've been doing well, and surprisingly, as some of you mentioned previously, I got over the loss of this friendship rather quickly. My boyfriend planned a trip to a pet-friendly beachfront hotel, and I spent a few days with just my boyfriend and doggo. We played in the seawater and I watched my dog play in the sand. Overall, we had a great time, and we even had grilled fish together while watching the sunset. Doggo had a deboned fish fillet. I'm also grateful for my friends who stood by my side regarding this issue. They check in on me from time to time and send me funny content to watch during my free time. Some of them even told me their own stories about Kendall and their discontent with her behavior, which I'll list below. Friend A. Kendall ridiculed Friend A several times because Friend A earned less than Kendall, despite him having worked a year longer than Kendall. Friend B. Kendall trash-talked Friend B's company via Instagram just because Kendall flunked her interview with said company. Friend C. Kendall always demanded Friend C to be her personal driver during our college days. If Friend C refused, Kendall would guilt-trip her. Friend D. Kendall ruined Friend D's assignment by pranking him. She actually formatted his laptop when the project was due in 2 weeks. When confronted, all Kendall said was, "Oopsies." There are many more stories, but these are the more serious ones. Now for the main course. After I kicked Kendall out of my house, one of my uni friends, let's call her Anne, stood by Kendall's version of events and allowed Kendall to move in with her instead. Anne called me out of the blue this afternoon, and her first question was, "How on earth did you manage to put up with Kendall for a year? She's driving me crazy." Long story short, whatever Kendall did when she lived with me, she's now doing to Anne. Snooping through Anne's personal items, leaving dirty laundry around, generally being a pain. Anne told me she's planning to force Kendall out of her house too. I didn't comment much, since Anne was one of the people who called me cruel, but now it's come back to bite her. But wait, there's more. According to Anne, Kendall lost her job because she asked for a 100% salary increase and then assaulted her supervisor when the request was turned down 2 weeks ago. She was immediately escorted out of the office building by security. And just 20 minutes ago, Kendall texted me saying she needed a favor. She wants a job at my workplace. I replied that there aren't any vacancies. To be honest, even if there were, I wouldn't hire her lamau. So yeah, I hope this is the last time I hear from Kendall. I'll only update again if something truly interesting happens involving her. Anne told me she's planning to force Kendall out of her house too. How in the ever-loving world did you not reply? Wouldn't that be cruel though? I went with a sarcastic tone of, "Oh wow, really? What happened?" I can imagine her turning up on your doorstep wanting a place to stay. Do you have a camera doorbell? Just in case. She's going to get desperate for friends and a place to stay now that people are realizing how crazy she is. I've set up a new doorbell cam. I live in an apartment and there are plenty of cameras in the lift and corridor. Plus, I wouldn't be afraid of her showing up since security would call me to verify visitors. A simple no would render her plans useless. How could she think you would do her a favor? Pet Kendall applies to the company and uses OP as a reference anyway. Regarding this, I have no worries about it, since HR has to wait for me to filter through candidates for my department before sending out an email invite for job interviews. I'll make sure to shred Kendall's if I see hers. What about the other departments? She only has skills for my department, sadly. I work in an advertising agency. It's either graphic designer or motion designer. Kendall can't, for the love of God, make good designs. She would only want my department. Even if she tried, I doubt she'd get into my company, since one of the requirements is to be able to converse in basic Japanese, and you are tested during the interview. Plus, you need to show your JLPT certification. Thanks for the advice, guys. But no worries, I doubt Kendall would even pass the first screening. Now for the last update. Hello everyone. It's been about 2 months since I kicked my now ex-friend Kendall out of my home. For those who have read my story before, I just want to let you guys know that Doggo and I are well fed and happy. If you remember last time, Anne, one of my friends who sided with Kendall, told me about all the horrible things that happened while having Kendall as roommate. Oh boy, Anne had to call the cops to evict Kendall. I happened to meet Anne at a pet-friendly cafe yesterday to enjoy a good book while my dog got to play in the doggy daycare-like area. I did wonder if it was intentional on her part, since all my friends know I love this cafe in particular. Anne greeted me and asked if she could sit and chat with me. We started with some small talk, but the moment she brought up evicting Kendall, I just sat there and listened. I smiled at Anne and lightly prodded her with a comment I borrowed from a previous Reddit comment. Oh, so you're really going to kick her out then? I remember someone once told me it was cruel to kick a friend out of their home. Anne stuttered for a while before saying I should have made a post to counter or clarify Kendall's social media claims about me. I simply told her I neither had the energy nor the need to do so. This led to a brief, awkward silence before I asked what she needed from me. Anne told me she just wanted someone to vent to about Kendall and didn't know who else to turn to. Anne told me she filed a police report against Kendall for theft and destruction of property and ultimately needed police assistance to evict Kendall from her home. She is also in the process of filing a restraining order. As she mentioned, Kendall looked completely unhinged at the time. Unlike me, Anne lives in a landed property, so I guess she'd be more worried about Kendall coming back to find her. Kendall apparently stole Anne's debit card and spent a whopping $2,000 in total. Anne only discovered the missing money when she noticed her debit card was gone from her wallet. She checked the bank statements and saw that $2,000 had been spent on clothes, expensive meals, and clubbing. At this point, one might ask, how did Anne know it was Kendall who spent the money? The answer presented itself when Kendall came home screaming at Anne for terminating her debit card. According to Anne, Kendall shouted every insult in the book while flailing her arms around with Anne's debit card in hand, then slammed it on the table before storming off to her room. That was the first time Anne felt afraid of another person, much less a friend. Since then, Kendall made Anne's life hell on earth. Kendall would leech off Anne's groceries, judge her choice of snacks, body shame her, and more. Kendall also attempted to seduce Anne's boyfriend. Once she kissed Anne's boyfriend, let's call him Jason, on the cheek and giggled before running straight to her room during movie night. In another instance, she groped Jason's manhood right in front of Anne, but later claimed she was drunk and thought she had touched a couch pillow. The worst thing Kendall did was throw herself onto Jason, claim she had a fever, and then guide Jason's hand to feel her breast, at which point Anne walked in and saw Jason's hand under Kendall's shirt. These incidents caused strain between the three of them, and Jason felt so uncomfortable that he told Anne he would stop visiting her house unless Kendall moved out. Anne cried when she got to this part. Anne then told Kendall to move out and gave her a week to do so. Kendall cried and ran out of the house, only to come back later in the evening and lock herself in a room. Anne assumed Kendall was packing her things and decided to ignore her for the time being. The next morning, Anne woke up to the sound of grunts and breaking ceramics. She rushed out to her yard to see an unhinged Kendall swinging a rod at everything she could hit: a tree, flower pots, even the grass. Anne immediately locked her doors and called the police, fearing for her safety. The police arrived, handled the situation swiftly, and took Kendall away. There was still a lot of screaming and shouting. Anne said she's not sure if Kendall is still locked up or if anyone has posted bail for her. While I guess it was kind of nice sipping tea about Kendall, the way Anne described Kendall's behavior makes me wonder if she actually needs professional help. I can't help but feel sad for her condition, despite the fact that we have been no contact for 2 months. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my dad's new wife's kids' college when I promised to cover my siblings? I, 28 female, make good money in tech. A few years ago, I told my 2 younger siblings, 19 male and 17 female, that when the time came, I'd help pay for their college since my dad couldn't. They were thrilled, and I've been saving specifically for them. Recently, my dad remarried a woman, 36 female, who has 2 kids, 16 and 15. Now he's pressuring me to be fair and split my savings 4 ways instead of 2. He says they're family now, and it's selfish to pick favorites. But I never made that promise to them. I don't even know them well, and I worked hard to set aside money for my siblings. My dad called me cold and accused me of punishing his wife's kids just because they're not blood related. My siblings are upset too. They feel like their future is being stolen. My stepmom keeps saying love makes a family, but I don't think it means I should foot the bill. Am I wrong for refusing to split the money? Not the a-hole, but just say, I will match whatever stepmother put into my bio siblings fund, so we can keep everything good and fair. Because if we are doing something for her kids, she needs to do something for my siblings. They won't say much after that. Not the a-hole. You made a promise to your siblings and you are keeping it. These other children have presumably 2 parents who are responsible for their education. Your dad should be thrilled you are helping your own siblings. That's actually his job.